All right, guys. Hey, Paul McLean here, and welcome to the Monday Morning Wake Up Podcast. And as you can see, I got my good buddy Frank DeSena on. Frank, good to have you on, man.
Man, it's a pleasure to be on, brother.
Man, well, I'll tell you what, dude. I don't want to mess anybody else that's ever been on this podcast, but I think this might be the best one that we're getting ready to step into. What we're going to cover is going to be big. I think what we're going to cover is really the driving force for people to go out there and make the choices that are going to lead to the results and outcome and lifestyle business that they truly want to have. And so as we get into this, guys, I just want to remind you real quick to go ahead and to subscribe, comment below. Like I say, every week we go through that. I want to see what you guys are, if what you like, what makes a difference for you. Any suggestions, questions, topics you want to have covered. Also, I put you into a drawing where you can win $250 in lead credit every single week. And I'm always excited to see who gets to be pulled out and wins that, because it definitely helps increase volume. Also share this because somebody might be out there needing to hear this specific thing from, this word today from Frank, this podcast today, and might make all the difference in the world for them to be set up for success this week. So Frank, dude, let's go give us a little bit about Frank, kind of before FFL, how you found the company, and just to kind of get to know you a little better.
Yeah, no, and I'll be quick. So I've been in the insurance business for about 8 years now. Started off with another company, was doing that for about 4.5 years. And that was the old, I say the old school way of doing insurance, right? Like selling friends and family, getting paid, I've taken a month and a half to get paid on the case because it's fully underwritten business. And just no support and really a structure that we have here. Before that, tried out different businesses, fitness company, I was thinking about this the other day. It's been about 12 years that I've been trying to do something on my own, not having a boss, trying to figure something out that actually is going to work. And that's why I'm just so grateful for Family First Life, because I wish I would have found this 12 years ago. It would have made life a lot easier, but it also gives me the gratitude that I have today.
Hey, Frank, when you started with Family First Life, because you'd already tried a couple different things.
Yep.
What was, was it hard to kind of let go of some of the past things that didn't work, where you were carrying them and maybe thought like maybe this won't work because that, like, did you have any doubt or disbelief in your bag that kind of developed from going through these different things that you'd already gone through?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's something I actually was speaking to Dave Richard the other day. And it's like, I almost had to, because he kind of came in a little beat up, scarred, bruised from his previous company. And it's like, you almost have to build up like that muscle again. Like you almost have to build up that muscle of belief, or that muscle of consistency, or that muscle of faith, whatever that muscle is for you. If you lost it, don't feel like you can't get it again. Like you just have to build it back up. Just like if you lose that muscle, if you get some fatigue, you have to build it back up. And I think that's just what I had to do. And it's funny, Paul, because when I'm speaking to an agent that came from another company, they come with some old ideas. They come with some old habits. They come with some old belief systems, whatever you want to call it. And I was there too. I had conversations with Nick, and Nick didn't come from insurance, but he knew where I came from. Like he had a couple of buddies in the same company I was with. He knew what I went through. And I even though we had the conversation, like he'd be like, dude, you're doing this, or you're thinking this way, but I almost like didn't realize when I was in it. Like, and that's what I think it's so important to, I was talking about this the other day, like leadership it's the transference of energy and belief, right? Sometimes we don't believe it yet, right? Like Trey Honeycutt said, he thanked everybody, right? When he started getting involved with the integrity opportunity, he was so grateful, and he thanked everybody. Like he thanked you. He's like, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Andrew, for believing in me before I believed in me. Right. And I think that's sometimes we have to open up to that belief and like that others have in us until it finally clicks, right? Until that muscle's built up enough where we're like, okay, I got it. Boom, I'm gone. And I think that's kind of just where I was.
Frank, how do you build that muscle? And I think it might be different for others, but I think maybe it's the same. I think there's probably some specific things you could do to build that muscle. How did you build that muscle up, in that process where in the beginning, you're trying to get things going, you're new, and you're battling doubt and discouragement from different things you've gone through in the past. You're trying to build the faith, like you said, you're trying to keep the hope that it's going to look different. It's going to be different. but you've got this bag that you're carrying with you as well. That's really kind of holding you back, a bag that you got to excavate so you can elevate to the right level. So you're trying to move as a new producer, figuring things out, which you obviously you suck in the beginning a lot more than you do as you get going, right? How do you keep from being so how did you keep from being so discouraged or disappointed that it really stopped you and caused you to do something else and maybe go find, well, maybe there's something else out there, maybe there's something else, and you then add to the bag, walk somewhere else with a heavier bag?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Yeah, that's such a good question, man. It's so funny that you say, like, it just brought me back. Like, I remember my wife, when I was in the other business, my wife, like once a week, Paul, she'd be like, when's enough enough? She would ask me that like once a week with the other company, like, when's enough enough? And for me, and I'm just, you could say I have a lot of faith, right? And I do. You could also say I'm stubborn, but I just made a decision. Like, for me, like, I was going to figure out insurance, whether it was with that company. By the grace of God, I found Family First Life, so it made it a lot easier and it shortened my time frame. But for me, I made the decision. Like, my answer to my wife was, I can't answer that. Like, I can't tell you when enough's enough, because that's not the question you should be asking. It's just like, it's never going to be enough. Like, I'm going to figure it out. We have to figure this out, because I knew there wasn't anything else for me. Like, so I think the first step is making a decision. That's the first thing. And then the next thing is, it's being consistent. Like, it's just making a decision and being consistent. Like we talk about all the time, like, your confidence in yourself and your belief system will increase when you keep the promises you make to yourself, right? So if you say, hey, I wake up at 7, I'm going to start waking up at 6, right? I want to get to 5. Maybe I'll get there soon, but I'm going to start at least waking up at 6. Now, some days you might hit the snooze, but like the next day, I'm going to say, I'm still going to try to go for 6. I'm not going to quit just because I hit the snooze once, right? I'm going to keep going. So I think it's just having that tenacious mindset of like, I'm just like, it's enough. It's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. Like something I talked about today, like when you start winning, like all the failures, all the setbacks, you don't see them because you're moving so fast. Like, it's just, they don't stop. Like, they're not going to stop. You just start moving so fast that they just get smaller. The mountains turn into anthills. So I would say, first thing, make a decision. And then the next thing is just commit to your commitment, and just every single day be consistent every day with whatever that decision is. And then eventually you're like, it's the same thing with building. Like, if you want 6-pack abs, how are you going to get there? It's like, you don't do crunches for 2 days and eat healthy for 2 days, and then a month later, like, lift up your shirt and be like, how come I didn't get them? Like, it's an everyday deal. And so I think it's the same thing in our business.
I love that, man. I mean, those are probably two of the biggest things. If we look at the people that succeed and eventually get to success, because it's not right away, but I think it's easy to look at. We can look at you now, Frank. You're doing 800,000 a month in paid business plus, right? That's a lot of volume. I mean, that's more than 95%, 98% of IMOs in the country, what you're doing with your group now. You got some great success, great income coming in. And it's easy to look back and say, man, well, Frank, he's got a good beard line. His beard looks good. Shirt looks nice, talks well. Like, he's just, he could be successful, but I don't know about me. And I remember having that, man. And some of the things that were the most helpful for me in the business is when I was able to listen to somebody that I had tried to put on a pedestal to make myself feel better about what I was going through. Or maybe it was to allow myself to not be so intense and kind of lay off the gas, so to speak, because they're so good. But when they were able to talk and say, man, no, listen, this is the process I went through. And as I started to build a business and I could watch different now VPs, but what they were when they weren't and what they had to go through, I realized that, man, everybody has that process. The two things that you just talked about, Frank, that's what gets them through it long enough where they can finally see the evidence. And when the evidence shows up of what they hoped for, that builds faith. In fact, that's the definition of faith, is having assurance what you hope for and confidence in what you don't see. Well, when you start to see it, that's invigorating. That allows you to, like you said, to turn the mountains into the anthills. I love that. Same, as beautiful. That's the truth. But for anybody right now that's going through it and you're like, man, I just don't quite yet see the evidence. Ask yourself what Frank said. Have you made the decision to just do what you need to do? Did you make the decision to get the right amount of leads? Make the decision to wake up when when at 5 a.m., get ahead of this curve. You're a self-employed business owner, your mindset, you got to control. Have you made the decision to do that? Have you made the decision to door knock and work your leads when you should be working them and staying consistent? These things, have you made the decision yet? And if you haven't made the decision, ask yourself why. Now, I want to kind of unpack this decision part, and then I want to get to the consistency part because, Frank, those two things are such a big deal. When we look at making the decision, I think that when I look at myself, for one, I had to have more reasons in my bag than I had doubt, disbelief, discouragement, and things that would mess me up. Like, man, if I said I was going to wake up at 5 and I got up at 5:30, dude, I would literally think I was a piece of crap loser. You know what I mean? Like, I would beat myself up so bad. Like, man, what a moron, man. Like, you are just a idiot. Like, what is wrong with you? And so I think that, and I said this the other week, that it's that art of not killing that voice, because the voice is saying like, hey, you should be frustrated because you didn't live up with what you said, but lowering it enough where you can get the feedback and say, okay, why did I not do that? And surf that kind of thought, and then figure it out, tweak, adjust, and then be empowered to say, I think I got a better shot at doing this now, but I'm not an idiot. I'm not a loser. Let me figure it out. But when the voice is so loud, you don't even want to look at different alternatives and adjustments, because you're just like, what's the point? I'm pathetic. I am a complete pathetic loser, right? Or if it's not loud enough, you just don't do it, whatever. And then complacency, you're kind of smug about it. Who cares? It is what it is.
Right.
So talk about that, Frank, your reasons, that kind of helped you get to a place where you were able to make that decision and then commit and stay consistent with it. What were some of the reasons for you?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think it's like one of the biggest things too, like working with a lot of agents and hearing a lot of stories and hearing a lot of the reasons and the whys. And it's funny because I had this conversation, and I remember calling you when I first started, just not where I wanted to be, struggling. And it's funny because I don't even think you knew who I was, whose team I was on. You didn't ask, like, you just helped, and that's what's so cool about Family First Life, is there's so many people willing to just help. And I remember you and I having a conversation, and I told myself, I'm going to reach out to 5 people that have written 40K a month consistently. That's what I did. And I didn't take 30 minutes. It was a quick 4 or 5 minute phone call, being respectful of their time, because, hey, maybe in the future, I want them to answer my call again. So I was just respectful. And I just asked, like, hey, like, when you started writing 40 grand, like after a couple of months, why didn't you just go to 20? Like, wasn't that enough? Like, that was it was my mindset of like, how did you stay at that level for so long? And it's funny because I kept getting the same answer, Paul. It was like, it was never about them. It was never about the person, right? Like, you were personal about me. I'm not going to share what you said, but people said things like their back was against the wall and they just had to do it. Like, there wasn't another option. Like, there wasn't an option to write 10 grand a month, right? So I think, like, whether it's a, and we can say it's a negative thing, but you're turning it into a positive. But if it's something that, like, is making you have to go do it, it may not seem like it now, but count it as a blessing, right? And maybe you don't have that thing where your back's up against the wall, but maybe you have to create that, right? So I had that thing I had my back up against the wall. And where I did go wrong, Paul, was once my back wasn't against the wall anymore, I let off the gas, right? So what I had to do was I had to start looking at and creating more reasons, right? They were always there, but maybe I was selfishly just focusing on me and my problems and woe is me. And I had to turn that around into, like, what was going to excite me? What was going to get me fired up every day, 25/8, to figure out, like, what's going to make me continue, whether I feel like it or whether I don't. So for me, some people know, a lot of people close to us know, I just had my third. So we have a newborn at home. And Paul, when I'm at the office, like, I'm thinking about my daughter, right? Like, I'm thinking about her, like, I'm picturing her little hands. I'm just like, how could I just do enough? Like, and again, my goal isn't to like leave millions of dollars to my kids. That's not my goal. My goal is to like do so great that my kids believe they can do so great too. Right. And now, and I'm thinking about it's a third kid now that like I have to do this for. Like, I don't want to be average because my kids are only going to believe they're average too. Just like the agents on our team, when we raise our hand and say, hey, I want to build a team, I want to invite people into this opportunity. If we're just doing average, like some people are going to do more, but a lot of people are kind of just going to follow suit with what we do. Right. So for me, that's a big why for me, is like, I just want to do more so that people around me know that they can do more too. And then my second thing is, and I share this, it's a personal thing. I don't share it a lot. I guess like you could say I recently started sharing it, but my mother's 67 years old, and she has something that she deals with health wise. And she's still working, and she works 50 hours a week. Like, I don't know, like, honestly, personally, Paul, I don't know anybody that outworks her. I really don't. And it's not because she wants to, it's because she has to. Like, she's just not, my mom didn't set herself up financially. Like, it just is what it is. So I just, like, my drive, like, I'm thinking, like, if I'm not working 80 hours, how can I let my mom work 50? Like, how can I work 30 if my mom's working 50? How could I do that? Like, she shouldn't be working anymore. So for me, that gets me so fired up, dude. Like, when somebody's like, how do you wake up at 4:30? Like, that's why. Right. When somebody's like, hey, you just got off that call, it's 10:30 at night and you woke up at 4 a.m. Like, how are you still going? That's why. Like, it's because it's not about me. So I think my advice to anybody that's like struggling with a purpose, a why, reasons, like, look outside of you. Because if you don't feel like doing it, it's easy to be like, I don't feel like doing it. Right. But if it's not about you, it's like, well, it's not about me. Like, I have to do this because I can't let this person down. I can't let them down. So that would be my advice. And that's where I'm at right now.
Dude, I love it, man. This is such a big deal. I mean, because I think that if, what you were saying is when you started to survive, that reason was kind of taken out of the bag and there wasn't enough other reasons in there. So it was easy to kind of just like coast or let off and really go below what your God-given potential is.
1,000%.
Like, God didn't create us to be average or just kind of be good for a couple of years and then just slide back off. No, it was to create, to imagine, to build, and to do something great. I mean, we're all created with his imprint to do that. But that's kind of that's the easy thing to do. And I love that, Frank, when you said, like, how can you put yourself where your back's against the wall? How can you create a life or death situation when it's not life or death? Because that's something in your mind. When I told you, like, I wrote 50,000 because, man, that was before we had lead BPLs. I had to do mail drops for agents to kind of help them out. I had litigation because we had just left, and my mom's, health stuff. I mean, there were so many things that, like, I had to do it. I had to. But if you're right, in hindsight, in the moment, I thought, man, this is pretty painful. A lot of sacrifice. This kind of feels like it sucks. But in hindsight, dude, I realized I had more in me, that I could do more than I thought I could. And I developed these disciplines that became habits that after a period of time, dude, writing 50,000 for me a month was no different feeling than when I was writing 20.
You build some bigger muscles.
It felt the exact same. Exactly. I was going to the gym the same time, but I was able to lift more. And that's the thing. Like, that's why those times are a blessing. If you fall into a trial or tribulation, count it a blessing, because you're going to grow. There's something there, if you respond right in hindsight, that'll create something great for you. And then, Frank, I want to make a mention of this because I think it's important. You started to look at other reasons that were going to help bring out the best in you to keep you moving.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, we could easily not be on this I could easily not be doing this podcast if I didn't find additional reasons. I would have been just the average agent doing whatever to pay the bills. But the other reasons people have, you could look at is like external reasons, like what would motivate you externally. It could be things, like, I want to live in this neighborhood. It's a better neighborhood for my family. I want to live in this house. It'd be more accommodating for my family. I feel like I could deserve this house. If other people have, why can't I live here? I want to drive this. I want to be able to do these different things. that could be different reasons you could add in your bag. I don't think those are enough. I think you could add additional reasons like I want to be able to give back. Like for me, Frank, like you, like my mom was making $700-800 a month on disability. You know, the other day where she was joking, I was telling her about annuity. She'd listened to like a podcast and she said, I just realized that you're my annuity. There's a lot of truth behind that, you know?
Amen to that.
And it's not a bad one. She's got a pretty good flow coming. But I wanted to be able to do that because like who the heck could live off $800 a month, dude? Are you kidding me? Like what? I think my wife spends $800 a day at Target. So like I wanted to be able to help my mom out and buy her a house and buy her a car, and those became really big reasons for me. And sometimes in depending on the path I was traveling or the timing of the process I was going through, one made more of an impact on my ability to move and pull out the best and stay committed and to sacrifice and be disciplined and consistent than others did. You know, for me to be able to put my kids in Christian school and private school and to be able to give back. I want to be able to launch a church and help fund that and be able to kind of get that going. It was something I was passionate about. Was, you know, all that kind of stuff was a big reason. They were big reasons for me, and it kept me. And see, for anybody on here, you got to ask yourself, what are your reasons? Do you really know what they are? Have you thought about it lately? Frank, how often do you kind of think about your why and your reasons of why you do what you do?
All day long. All day long.
How do you keep that in front of you?
I think again, I guess we could say it's a muscle, because I maybe I didn't think about it always like I do right now, but like that's all, like it's in front of me all day long. And it wasn't always, right? So something that you could do is write them down when you wake up in the morning, write them down before you go to bed. Have them in front of you, I have things written out everywhere. So maybe you could say originally I forced them to be in front of me, and now it's just all day long. Paul, I wanted a little side note, but something I wanted to bring up, because this is something that's really helped me too, mindset wise. And this has been like my word of the year is just steward, right? And it's being a good steward. And I'm not trying to push faith on anybody. You know, you don't have to believe in Jesus to open up the book and get some wisdom. And the Bible talks about being a good steward, right? Being a good steward of your time, your resources. For me, I look at Family First Life as like an opportunity of a lifetime. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get this again. I don't know if I'll ever get an opportunity like this again. I have to be a steward of this opportunity. That's the way I treat it. So I think, yes, having big whys is huge. It's probably the most important thing, but also like having gratitude, right? Like I look at it as like I was a walk-on to Family First Life. Like I didn't get recruited. I wasn't an all-star player, but like I walked on and they took me, right? Like they picked me, and I'm just like, I don't want to be that guy that just does a little bit and he's on the bench. Like I want to be starting. Like I want to be because I remember I never followed sports, but I would look. I played them, but I didn't follow them. And I look at the athletes that, like, I would look at the Michael Jordans, and I'm like, okay, this guy's first one in, last one out, every single day, all in. Like this, he eats, breathes, and lives this deal. I'm like, these people get a lifetime opportunity, and they're late to practice. They just do enough that they're not all out on their sprints. They're they party on the weekends. They're not eating healthy, but they could be earning the same amount as him. I mean, they're still making a lot. That just shows me it's like lack of gratitude. So for me, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. And going back to being a good steward, it's like to me, it was like, if this was given to me, I have to be a good steward of the opportunity. So I think that might help somebody too.
Dude, I think that's perfect, man. Very well said. And let me ask you this, Frank. So, because I think gratitude, it plays such a high part with anybody that's being successful, whether it's a producer or somebody building a business. They have this high level of gratitude. They got an attitude of gratitude. And I think it's easy to lose gratitude in about any area of your life. And I think when you're exposed to something long enough, you can become numb to it.
Yep.
You become numb to it because it becomes your normal. And then when it's normal, then you start taking it for granted and you start doing these little things, compromise, whether that's the basketball player that goes out and starts drinking on the weekends and eat bad, or it could be the FFL agent that decides to not go to the last appointment or get the same consistent lead flow, or the FFL agent that knows, man, I should go out and do those last 4 door knocks. I haven't got a hold of those families. That guy might not come home tonight, but I'm kind of good because I'm doing better than I thought I was going to do. And they become numb to what is their new normal. Or I'm not going to hire my next step because it's kind of uncomfortable and this kind of feels good. I have to do this, I have to do that. Or they used to be grateful that they could drive 3 hours to go make 5, 6, 7 grand in a day. Now it's like, man, I have to go drive. I got to get, they switch it. How do you keep that gratitude and safeguard or hedge yourself against the tendency to have that drop because it becomes normal?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think for me, and I don't know if I have a perfect answer, but I can tell you what I do. I started doing this a while ago, but I could say I got more intentional about it recently. I start the day every single day with gratitude. I know people suffer from depression. I never have. If anything, I'll suffer from anxiety before I do depression. But I read that this woman who's a psychologist, they were able to, in a study that they did, they were able to get people off of depression meds by using this gratitude ritual routine. So every morning I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. All right. The first 5 are what is going on right now, and they're never the same. And that will help with my things are the smallest things. Like, I'm grateful that I have contacts. Like, that sounds silly, but if I didn't have contacts, I literally wouldn't be able to see you right now. Like, before I put my contacts in, I can't see. How awesome is that there's contacts? Like, I'm grateful for that. How grateful, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the agents on the team that are having success. Like, they weren't 2 days ago. Now this person just made 6 grand. I'm grateful for that. I'm looking for things to be grateful for, because where focus goes, energy flows. So I'm starting my day with things that I'm excited about, that I'm focused on. So that's the first 5. The next 5 are my future truths, right? So, like, I'm grateful that I'm an integrity partner with Paul McLean. I'm grateful for it. Like, it's gonna happen. I'm so focused on it. It's gonna happen. So I'm grateful for it. And studies show that subconsciously, your subconscious mind doesn't know right from wrong. So, like, if I tell myself a lie long enough, or a future truth long enough, I'm gonna believe it, right? So if I'm grateful for something that I don't even have yet, if I'm starting off with 5 things I'm grateful for that I have, and I'm finishing for 5 things that I'm gonna have, like, how powerful of that is a way to start the day. So I think the mind is so strong, dude. Like, if I just did a podcast, and it was just about, we've all heard, those who think they can and those who think they can are both right. So why wouldn't I intentionally put stuff out there that I want and that I'm grateful for? So that, to me, honestly, like, I wish I had a better answer, but that's what's been working for me.
Well, I gotta be honest. I don't know that I'm glad that you had that answer, because I think that was the best answer. You know what I mean? That was a great answer. And I think that's so important, dude, to be able to forecast what you want to see. I think too many people nowadays, the anxiety and stuff like that, it's cultivated by just kind of continuously perpetuating what they've felt and experienced day after day. And they don't even know that they're looking into the future with this anxiety, and this is going to happen, and these thoughts that kind of just continue the cycle going because it feels like them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know that I'm doing it because it just feels like me. But to step back and really spend the time in seeing yourself go out there doing the activities that the top producers do, having the virtues that the top people have, the humility, the hunger, the desire, the positive, all those things, and visualizing the best version of you, and visualizing you going out there and accomplishing it, that sets you up to go out there and cultivate a different feeling that moves you to motion and moves your behavior, changes your personality. And all of a sudden, like, man, that person seems different. You know what I mean? And that's the way it should be. Like, I hope next year somebody says, dude, you seem different than you were a year ago. I hope it's a good thing, because I've continuously visualized and saw the next level in every area of my life, and saw it so much in the regard that I just started taking steps as if that was what I was doing. I think that's so important, man. Frank, I think when you look at the reasons as well, one of your word for the year is a reason. Like that's a virtue. And I think that's something that is very motivating for anybody, no matter what level of success they get, is becoming more virtuous. Looking at, can I be more coachable? Can I be more disciplined? Can I be more focused? Can I be more giving? Can I be more loving? Can I be kind? Can I be gentler? Can I be more patient? Those things are all virtues. Being a good steward, that's a virtue. And that's something that's very motivating to go out there and to focus on getting better every day and stretching and growing and really sidelining complacency because, heck, I want to get better in these areas. Is there any other virtues that you kind of keep on your mind? I know stewardship is a word of the year, which I love that. Have you always done that, by the way, had a word for the year that kind of was the North Star for you?
No, that's something I've probably done the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Why is that so important?
It really creates direction. Like it creates an intense focus, obviously depending upon the word, but I think there's so much going on right now. Like it's just, everything's so fast paced, everything's ever changing. And I think if you can hone in on something like that, it'll just create like just massive momentum towards wherever you're going.
I love that. So it kind of centers you and saying,
Yep.
hey, today, how can I go out there and live my word? And then when you go back to like your visualization, it's going out there and finding ways to execute and be your word and take action on that. I think that's such a big deal to have that be a North Star. And so that's another tip. And we've got multiple ones that you've given out, but if you don't have a word and you can just think, about different words and figure out where you're at right now, where you need to have the most growth in trying to cultivate that word. Like what I do every year is I spend time in prayer just because I feel like the word that God would give me would probably be a little better than one that I would come up with on my own accord. But that is a big deal to have that. What are some other virtues, Frank, that you see are really kind of essential to becoming a top producer and something that's got a large business with FFL? What are some of those things as you look at your group and you see emulated that lead to the success that everybody kind of desires?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we could do a whole podcast just on that, Paul. But I think for me personally, and then just for other people that I'm working closely with, I would say service. Like service is huge. Like especially when you're new and you're focused on, oh, I spent this amount on leads, and you're focused on the numbers, which I think is really what we want to get away from. It's okay to sit down with your manager, sit down with yourself and come up with a game plan and go over the numbers. That's fine. But it shouldn't be a day and all day occurrence where you're thinking about the numbers, right? Because then it takes away from the service, right? We're called family first, not financials first. And I think if we could do that and take the numbers out, take the money out, and just focus on service, it's game over. Like there's a great book called like From Selling to Serving, because it's talking about service, right? We're talking about like when you're in the house, if we've talked about this all the time, Paul, when we're meeting with a 65 or 7-year-old, like they've been through life, right? They've been through wars, they've lost family. They know if you're selling them or if you really care, they know. So like, that would be the next thing I would tell you, is just focus on helping people. Like when you're in a bad spot, the best thing you could do is just go out and help a bunch of people, because then you're not going to be thinking about your problems. You're not going to be thinking about yourself, right? Because that's whether things are going well or not. When all you're doing is thinking about yourself, you're being selfish. So whether things are going well or not, just go all out on helping others. And I think that goes back to what I was saying with my complacency is I was thinking too much about me. When I went back to thinking about my kids, my mom, my team, people around me, it's not about me anymore. Now I'm serving. Now, so it goes back to being, it's going back into having a heart of service. So I think that would be a really good thing to focus on as a new agent or as somebody that wants to build a business.
I love that, dude. Well, I think as everybody today is setting themselves up to go out there and have the biggest week they've had yet, this is exactly what you want to do. You want to sit back, kind of take a look, take an account for the reasons in your bag. How many do you have? What are they? Can you add some to it? Because to take yourself to the level that God created you to be, this level that's even hard for yourself to see yourself accomplishing some of these things, to take yourself there, you got to have a big bag of reasons to do some of these next level steps. Maybe to get a little uncomfortable, you might be okay with having 2 or 3 in there. But if you want to go out there and just blow it up and do what you were created to do, you want to have more reasons. And Frank, I couldn't agree more. One of those reasons, because virtues or reasons, is just serving others. And really the greatest act of serving somebody is sacrificing your time, energy, effort, resources for them. That's the greatest act of love. That's the greatest act of love, is giving and serving and sacrificing. And if you do that, you're going to have fulfillment. You're going to see fruits. When somebody says, man, I don't know what my calling is, I could tell you, God gave us all one calling in common: to go love your neighbor. That was a commandment. That was better than all the other ones. That was the one. And so if we go out there and do that this week, from clients, from agents, from thinking about the ones that are out there sacrificing and putting the time, energy, effort in for, we're going to go out there and have the best brought out of us. And so, Frank, thank you so much, man, for serving the team today. Phenomenal podcast. This is worth re-listening to and really kind of breaking down and identifying the things that are going to be the driving force for you, so you can step over the pain and get to the payoff that you well deserve. So, Frank, thank you so much, dude. Guys, make it a massive week. Stay strong, be steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
What's going on, guys? We are here doing another $250 lead credit giveaway. If you commented on this video right here with Ivan Bezrov, you're automatically entered to win $250 in lead credit. And if you comment on this video right now, go comment, pause the video, do whatever you gotta do. Go comment right now for a chance to win $250 in lead credit. And then every week we do this, we draw the names, we put them into this little algorithm calculator thingamabob over here, and then we cycle them through and somebody wins. And we're about to do that right now. So again, if you haven't yet, I don't know why you're still watching. Go leave a comment right now to be entered to win. Now, without further ado, let's see who won this week. Nicole Lockett. Congratulations, you just won $250 in lead credit. Go ahead and get in contact with Victoria and we'll set you up with some leads. Take care, guys. We'll see you next week.